Once upon a time, in a faraway castle, there lived a young princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as a rose, and hair as black as ebony. But sadly, Snow White was not happy. Her mother, the queen, had passed away, and her father had married a new queen, a woman who was beautiful, but cold and cruel. This new queen possessed powerful dark magic, and her most prized possession was a magic mirror. Every single day, she would stand before it and ask, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" For many years, the mirror would reply,
on the wall.
"You, my queen, are the fairest in the land." This pleased the wicked queen very much. But as Snow White grew, her kindness and gentle spirit made her beauty shine even brighter.
In the land.
One fateful day, when the queen asked her question, the mirror gave a different answer. "You, my queen, are fair, 'tis true. But Snow White is more fair than you."
Who is the fairest
The queen
of them
flew
all?
into a terrible rage.
Snow White is
Her
more
jealousy
fair than you.
was so fierce that she called for her royal huntsman. "Take the princess deep into the forest," she commanded, her voice like ice. "And there, you will cut out her heart and bring it back to me in this box." The poor huntsman was horrified, but he was too afraid to disobey. He took Snow White into the dark woods. But when he raised his knife, he saw the fear and innocence in her eyes, and his heart melted. "I cannot do it," he cried. "Run, princess. Run far away and never return to the castle." He killed a wild boar instead and took its heart to the queen, leaving Snow White alone and terrified in the shadowy forest.
Run
Snow White
far
ran and ran,
away.
her tears falling like rain. Twisting branches seemed to grab at her, and strange eyes glowed in the dark. Just when she thought she could run no more, she stumbled into a small clearing. There, she saw the most charming little cottage she had ever seen. It was tiny with a little roof and a little door. Hoping to find shelter, she knocked gently. When no one answered, she pushed the door open and gasped. Inside, everything was covered in dust and cobwebs. "Why, it's filthy," she whispered. Then a thought struck her. "Perhaps the children who live here have no one to look after them. I'll tidy up for them, and maybe they will let me stay." So Snow White got to work. She swept the floor, dusted the furniture, washed the dishes, and scrubbed until the whole cottage sparkled. Upstairs, she found 7 little beds, all in a row. Exhausted from her long journey and her hard work, she lay across the beds and, before she knew it, fell fast asleep. Meanwhile, deep in a jewel mine in the mountains, 7 little men were finishing their work. They were dwarfs. There was Doc, the leader who sometimes got his words mixed up. Grumpy, who was always cross. Happy, with a cheerful smile. Sleepy, who could barely keep his eyes open. Bashful, who blushed at everything. Sneezy, who was always about to let out a mighty HCHOO. And Dopey, the youngest, who never spoke but had a heart of gold. They marched home in a line, singing their famous song, Hi-Ho. But as they approached their cottage, they noticed something strange. "Look," cried Document, "the lights on. The chimney's smoking," grumbled Grumpy. "Someone's in our house." They crept inside, tiptoeing as quietly as 7 dwarfs can tiptoe. Everything was clean. Their pots were polished. Their floor was swept. "It's a ghost," whispered Sneezy, just before a tickle in his nose made him let out a thunderous sneeze that shook the rafters. They crept upstairs and found Snow White sleeping across their beds.
The light's on!
She woke with a start
Someone's
and
in our
saw
house.
7 bearded faces staring at her. She was frightened for a moment, but then she saw the kindness in their eyes. "Oh, you're not children,"
Look at
she
this
said.
place.
"You're little men. Please don't be angry. I was lost, and I cleaned your house for you." The dwarfs were enchanted by her sweetness, all except for Grumpy, who muttered, "Women, they'll cook ya and clean ya and fill your head with nonsense." Snow White learned all their names and told them her story. They felt so sorry for her that they instantly offered her a home. "You can stay here," said Doc, "as long as you cook and clean for us." The dwarfs cheered, even
You're not
Grumpy, though he
children.
tried to hide it.
You're little
"But
men."
you must be careful. warned Snow White. "My stepmother, the queen, is very wicked. She might use her magic to find me." Back at the castle, the queen discovered the huntsman's trick. Curious, she went to her magic mirror. "Magic mirror, where is she?" The princess lives with the 7 dwarfs in the cottage in the glade. The mirror replied. The queen's rage knew no bounds. "I shall take care of her myself," she cackled. Using her darkest magic, she transformed herself into an old hag with a crooked back, a warty nose, and tattered clothes. Then, she brewed a deadly poison and dipped a beautiful red apple into it. "This is no ordinary apple," she hissed. "One bite, and Snow White will fall into a sleeping death. Only love's first kiss can break the spell, and she will be buried alive." She cackled wickedly as she placed the apple into her basket. The next day, while the dwarfs were at work, the queen, disguised as the old peddler woman, came to the cottage window. "Apples. Sweet apples," she called. Snow White remembered the dwarf's warning not to talk to strangers. But the old woman looked so harmless. "It's a magic apple," the hag crooned. "Make a wish and take a bite." Snow White hesitated, but the apple looked so delicious. She wished for the dwarfs and herself to be safe and happy forever. Then she took a single bite. Instantly, the poison took effect. Snow White stumbled and fell to the floor, as if in a deep, deep sleep. The evil queen laughed in triumph, but her joy was short-lived. A storm had begun, and as she fled, the 7 dwarfs, who had been warned by the forest animals, chased her up a mountain. Lightning flashed, and the queen, trying to roll a giant boulder onto the dwarfs, slipped and fell from the cliff to her doom. The dwarfs returned home to find their beloved Snow White, still and silent. They couldn't bear to bury her, for she still looked so beautiful, as if she were only sleeping. So they built a beautiful coffin of glass and gold and placed her in a peaceful clearing in the forest, where they kept a constant watch over her. Seasons passed. One day, a handsome prince, who had once heard Snow White singing and had fallen in love with her, came riding through the forest. He saw her in the glass coffin and was heartbroken. He knelt beside her and gently kissed her lips. It was love's first kiss. As if by the greatest magic of all, the spell was broken. Snow White's eyes fluttered open. She saw the kind face of the prince and smiled. The dwarfs danced and cheered with joy, their hearts full. Snow White said a loving goodbye to her 7 dear friends, promising she would never forget them. Then, the prince lifted her onto his white horse, and they rode away to his castle, where they lived happily ever after, in a kingdom filled with joy and laughter.